Wardoff left into Wardoff right. Choreographically, this is pretty straightforward. From Wardoff left, you shift all of your weight forward. You let the fingers on the right hand move so that they're under the fingers on the left hand. You turn to the right, pivoting on the ball of the right foot. Let the hands have a ball of air. Left hand is on top. Take a step for a 70-30. As you shift, let the ball rotate so it becomes horizontal. When you have more weight forward, turn your waist, rear foot on heel, square to the new direction. In the final posture, the right arm is rounded. This is the arm that has the Wardoff feeling. The left hand is between the body and the right hand. Ben Lowe used to say halfway between the chin and the right hand. I find that feels a little tight, so I let it be about 1/3 distance between the hands, 2/3 distance between the hand and the body. So it's just a couple steps. Shifting, letting the hands come under each other, turning, ball of air, step, shift, ball rotates, turn, pivot on the rear heel, final posture. Be careful to not overturn. A lot of times people miss that final posture. The thing about the final postures is just about every final posture, even as it has twists and turns on the way, when it ends, all of the energy comes together and goes in one direction. So when I'm doing this, I come into Wardoff Right, and as I'm turning here at the last minute, the expansion is out in the direction that I'm facing. So be careful that the move doesn't just go from one corner to the other corner with the motion going across the body. At the last minute, the motion is expansive in all directions and directed towards the front. Separating the weight, got to be real clear about it here. So you're here, 70% in the left leg. You shift so that you've got all the weight in the front leg and turn. At this point, it's easy to pick up the right foot. After you step, it's easy to pick up the right foot. Then you shift and turn. One of the things that often happens to people is they don't step wide enough for Wardoff Right. So this is what happens. Watch. I'm here, and I step like this. You can see where my feet are going to end up. I don't have any width when I do this. Then when I get into Wardoff Right, I've got a couple choices. I can distort the body, or I can let the rear heel push out. That's what the body will do when you don't have enough width. So watch it with me facing the way I started out, and watch my left leg. As I come through here, I turn, and I step without enough width. As I come up and start to turn, I'm going to lose the rear heel, and the body, in an attempt to maintain some integrity, will let that rear heel push out. So be really assiduous about that. Pay attention to it. It's an easy thing to miss. So what I need to be sure is that when I come into Wardoff Right, I don't just step straight ahead, I also step slightly to the side so that I'll end up with enough width between the feet. Then when I turn my waist, the rear foot can pivot on the heel. When I get into the end here, if I step with enough width, when I finish and turn my waist, the rear foot can pivot on the heel. The next level of detail here, watch what's happening with my hands. As I sink into the front foot to get set to turn the hands, because the top of my femur, the top of the thigh, is a little ball fitting inside the socket of the hip joint. When I shift, I'm not just going to shift exactly forward without turning. When I shift here, the body will turn slightly. So I'm not trying to go over to the side over here. But as I sink down, I will turn slightly. And so you can let that turn the top hand as you do that. It moves the bottom hand so that it comes underneath the top hand. Notice how my top hand is staying in space. I'm not carrying it with me as I do this. Instead, what's happening is I'm turning inside the curve of my arm. So I turn, and then I come back. That turns the bottom hand over. So this turning over of the hands is really a 1.5 part thing. And 1 to get that turned over. Then as I step, I release, I let the hands change. There's a real tendency when you're doing difficult things to freeze the body so you can move the foot. Notice your tendency to do that. That's because, 1, your balance isn't good enough, and 2, you're using force and tension to keep your balance. So if you can actually be balanced here, when I turn over, this is a letting go, and it will change my hands slightly as I do this. The whole thing will move. Notice the rotation of the hands. It's not just that the bottom hand comes up. Oh yeah, I remember I have this other hand and I move it. The 2 hands move together. So I turn, I release, the hands start moving. The ball rotates. Both sides of the ball rotate. If I really had a ball here and I turned it, my backhand would move too, not just the bottom hand coming up. So I turn it, the ball has gotten smaller, I turn to the front, and I make sure that the final move is really oriented to the new front, not just slopping through it. Wardoff left into Wardoff right. And the last thing, notice the interplay between the hands and the cross balance. The weighted leg is connected to a weighted hand in Wardoff left. The left hand, the warding off hand, is empty, filling the space. So as I sink here, my bottom hand is becoming even fuller, and as I turn it over. Now there's going to be this change so that this hand, the back hand, is now the full hand, and that's what moves me into the final posture. So it's really easy in Tai Chi to have your attention go and your doing go to the hand that should be following the motion rather than the full hand that's actually connected to the root. So right hand, right hand, right hand, all the way through here. And then left hand full as I finish. One final time. Wardoff right.